stormed past everybody, grabbed a hot dog, and then calmed himself down.
He did it when we were on vacation. He walked up. Didn't he? We love you.
But for the people who don't go here, they need to know things like that. So if they ever see James out in public, they'll feel like they know him. But they will through this class. That would be great. Every time we mention somebody, put them up on the video. This is James. All right, well, good morning. Good morning. All right, we're going to get started. How about those Knicks, huh? I don't watch sports. I'm just kidding. I don't know. No, basketball. Yeah, I know that much of it. I don't have sports. Cricket, yes. Cricket. Yes, they do like the Knicks, Jerry and George. All right, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about God's perfect plan. Wow. Doesn't that sound great? Huh?
Wonderful.
What'd you say?
We're talking about Cain and Abel today, and we're talking about tithing and first fruits and obedience.
Oh, well, I'm not talking about Cain and Abel, but I am coming out of Genesis. So, pretty close. Pretty close. They are neighbors with a man I call Noah. That was his name. So we're going to talk about Noah a little bit. And so when I was putting this lesson together, I think about my own life. That's kind of where I go. I saw a video. I'm going to tell you about that in a little minute, or in a minute. Not a little minute, but a minute. But I feel like there's times where I find myself in God's prep phase. And then I feel like I'm in nothing but the prep phase. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, God's always preparing you to walk through something that will never end until we go home to be with the Lord. And so the cycle is that we get prepared and then we go through it and we think we're done. No, we go right into another season of preparation to go right through another storm or another season that we're not ready for. And so I was thinking about how there's times where I feel like I'm in the prep phase and I feel like that's it. And so I get frustrated and I get aggravated, like, God, at what point do we get out of this part of it and let me start walking in something? I feel like all I'm doing is prepare and prepare and prepare. And because we're people and we're emotional, when we feel like we're spending too much time in one thing that He has for us, we feel like He's just kind of forgotten about us. I'm going to put you over here in the prep phase, and I've got some other things I need to work on. I'll be back for you. And then we feel like we're sitting there like, God, where did you go? Why am I here? Why am I still here? Why has this not changed? And so it gets frustrating. Sometimes it's deflating. Preparation brings excitement because you know that you're getting ready to walk in something. But when we feel like we're just here, we've made our bed in the preparation phase, and we're just here, sometimes it's deflating. It's like, I want to walk. I'm okay with being prepared because the Lord knows I don't want to go through anything that I'm not ready for. But I want to do some walking. Like, I want to see some things. Whatever it is that you have for me, like, let me have it. Take the leash off, Lord, and let me go. And the Lord says, no, I'm still preparing you. And so sometimes it's kind of deflating. Sometimes it starts to begin to feel like it's unnecessary because we go through the same things and the same things and the same things. So if your next season, if patience is what God is going to get you through with, if it's patience, and He's teaching you these lessons of patience over and over, at some point we look at God and we go, I've got it. I have to be patient. I understand. You've taught me this lesson. I'm ready to move on to something else. And so we find ourselves in a place that's very necessary, but we find ourselves in a place where we become frustrated by the phase that we're going through. Sometimes I just want to walk in His plan and believe that I'm ready for whatever happens, right? So then I'm reminded His ways are not my ways. And I'll remind you, your ways are not His ways. And so how dare we question God, right? But He knows that we're ignorant little children and we're going to do those things from time to time. But we have to remind ourselves His ways are not our ways. Our thoughts are not His thought. And so when we think we have our head wrapped around what He's doing, okay, He's preparing me for something. Okay, he's got to release me into something. Okay, he didn't release me. Okay, he's still preparing me. You know, we become frustrated by that, but God is doing something, right? Our thoughts are not his thoughts, so it doesn't make sense to us all the time. And we forget his will is to be magnified over our own. And so when I find myself in moments where I'm ready to walk, you know, I'm ready to walk into what God has for me, and I'm just kind of tired of this season that I'm sitting in. Lord, let me do something else. We have to remind ourselves it's his will, not our will. So that's what we're going to talk about today is God's perfect plan. Now, I started this lesson because I saw a video. All right? I won't give you the whole circle of what happened, but I'll give you the important parts. I saw this video of a guy who was building a boat by hand. And I'm not talking about like a little rowboat or a canoe. He was building a boat, like a wood boat, like a seaworthy vessel by hand. Old world, you know, methods and strategies and, you know, old world tools. And, you know, I get into that kind of stuff. And so he builds the boat, and as I'm watching the video, it's coming together. It looks like a boat, but to me it kind of looks sloppy. It doesn't look like something that I would feel comfortable getting on and setting sail across the ocean, you know, because God forbid you get out of eyesight of the shore and the boat goes down. You know, what do? So I prefer that my boat looks seaworthy before I get on it, right? So he builds this wooden boat, and this blew my mind. And I thought about Stormy, because I bet Stormy knows this. I did not know this. When they build wooden boats, they go ahead and they put them in the water. And they're riddled with leaks, and, you know, there's spaces between the wood, and there's water coming in, and that's not what you want for your boat. A boat, by definition, is supposed to get you across wet land to dry land. You're supposed to be as dry going off as you were when you went on, right? So this boat is taking on water. And I thought, oh, that must be disheartening for the guy who spent all that time building that boat. Now it's full of water. No, wooden boats are self-sealing. You put them in the water, and the wood swells up, and these little areas that you can't see with your eye, the wood absorbs the water, it spreads, right, and it seals itself. You empty the water out of the boat, and now you have a boat that's ready to go. Did anybody else know that? Stormy, did you know that? Well, we're going to talk about that too. Right? We're going to talk about that too. But in the old days, that's what and there's still people who are handmade boat crafters today, and that's one of the methods that they use. And I didn't know that. To me, that's crazy, right? But somebody built a boat, put it in the ocean, got in it, got halfway out, you know, away from land, and thought, oh, we started with leaks. We don't have any leaks anymore. This is how we seal our boat. And so I saw this video. Now, when I saw the video, I thought, that's it. I'm teaching about Noah. Welcome to class, James. Heard you caught the late flight in. So, when I saw this video, I thought, I'm going to teach on Noah. Because who's one of the most famous boat makers in the world? Noah. I mean, that's who comes to mind. I'm not a boat guy, so I don't even know who makes boats. But Noah makes boats, so we're going to talk about Noah. And so when I began to read and study for this, I found all kinds of juicy nuggets. And so that's what I want to share with you today. Are we intrigued? We're intrigued. Is the left side of the church intrigued? Is the teacher's wife intrigued? Well, good. If I got you, babe, I got it all. I wrote that down right here, so. It's not in here. You can come look. I meant it. I meant what I said. All right, so I began. I was in the tub when I put this together. Yeah, I had to. That's the only way I can do it. It's the only place the kids can't get in there with me, you know. And one of them tries now. He's not concerned about the lack of covering. So I began reading the story about the great flood, but specifically the prep phase that God had Noah in and the prep phase that God went through, because this is where this lesson was birthed. I feel like I'm being prepared, God. I feel like I've been prepared. I feel like you're continuing to prepare. At what point is the preparation enough, and at what point am I released to walk into whatever you're preparing for me? And so out of that frustration, I thought, I'm going to look at Noah, because that wasn't a good task. And so one of the first things that jumped out at me comes out of Genesis chapter 6, verse 14. I'll let you write it down, but I'm just going to reference it and we're going to move on. Genesis chapter 6, verse 14, it says, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood and cover it inside and outside with pitch." Pitch, Stormy, pitch. Now, wood boats have been pieced together. When they're being pieced together, we talked about it. We'll talk about it again for the ones that came in. They take wood boats, they put them in water, the wood swells, and then it seals itself, and now that boat is ready to go, right? God is telling Noah, you have to put pitch on this boat. When I was doing research for this class, I typed in, is gopher wood absorbent? Because I thought, how like God would it be for God to go build this boat out of gopher wood, for us to thousands of years later find out that gopher wood is one of the most absorbent woods in God's creation? Yes.
You know the only place in the world that gopher wood grows?
Tell us that.
Georgia and Florida.
Georgia and Florida. So the ark is from our homeland. That's interesting.
It is factual. The only place in the world that gopher wood grows is in Georgia and Florida along the coastline.
That is interesting. So Noah was a southerner. He was a southerner. And now we know it. Now we know where all that drinking came from. Yeah. So I'm researching for this class, and I go type in, because I don't know anything about gopher wood. I just found out, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but the only place gopher wood can be found is in the coastline of Georgia and Florida. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I just learned that. Shout out to Adam. So I type it in, how much or how absorbent is gopher wood, because I thought, God pieces things together all the time. And it's just like people to go, I don't want to use gopher wood. Gopher wood's too heavy. I'd rather use this wood. Or gopher wood's a longer walk. I'd rather use this wood. And we find out after the fact that God was very intentional in his very specific instruction.
Yes.
I 100% believed that I was going to find out that gopher wood is one of the most absorbent woods, and I was going to come in here and I was going to blow your minds this morning. That is not true. It's not. But the truth is actually even more mind-blowing. Gopher wood is water repellent. It doesn't take on water. It doesn't absorb water, right? And so what did the Lord tell Noah to do? Build this boat and cover it with pitch.
Yes.
Right? And for me, as disappointed I am that my original vision couldn't be realized this morning, I'm even more amazed at God, because boats weren't a thing. People saw this thing and thought, what is it? What is he doing? Noah is insane. What is he doing? Now he's not just building it, but he's covering it in something ugly. We think that pitch is like tar, so it's not pretty. Oh, look what he did, such an ugly object. They don't even know what it is, right? But God said, build this boat and build it out of gopher wood. Now the Lord has breathed creation, everything that we know under the sun. And so God knew gopher wood isn't going to swell and expand, and that boat is going down if Noah doesn't do what I've asked him to do. So he told Noah to cover it in pitch. Right? So notice the order. God did not say, build the boat and I'll use the flood to seal it. Right? Which is what modern boat builders would say. He said, seal it before the rain even falls. And so we find Noah in a preparation phase with God. Same ones that we go through. We might not be building arks, but rest assured the Lord is preparing you for something. You're going to walk in something that you're not ready for. And at no point in this life will you not be in a preparation phase or not be walking in something.
Yes.
But when the Lord puts us through those phases, as frustrating they are, that we feel like we've been put on a leash and we can't just walk in what he has waiting for us, we have to prepare and prepare and prepare. We have to trust and believe that every specific instruction from God is preparing us for a perfect process to get into the promise that he has waiting on us. So the ark wasn't made waterproof because of the flood. God's instructions waterproofed this ark before the rain ever began to fall. God's complete and perfect provision came before God's judgment did. Now, if you're going to be on one team or the other, where would you rather be? The person who's stuck in the preparation phase and feels like all they're doing is being tested and worn and tired and prepared, or the ones that didn't go through that phase and now they're staring right down the barrel of a fully loaded judgment of God, right? So as frustrated as we get with feeling like we're stuck in a place of preparation, we need to thank God that His Word proves over and over again that preparation comes before judgment, right? And we see that with Noah. Thank you, sir. It's an honor.
You want to be the fool building the boat, or you want to be the idiot banging on the side of it once the rain starts?
I'd rather be in the boat. I think that's unanimous. Everybody agree? So God's complete and perfect provision for Noah came before God's judgment for everybody else did. Every word of Scripture means something. Go for wood. God means go for wood. Cover and pitch. God doesn't mean slap a little on the side. Slap a little on the side and put a little in the corners. God said cover it, and He meant cover it. Emily? Smearing it, yeah.
Overkill with it because God told him to make sure that everyone did. So
Yeah.
that's what I kind of picture it as, just like
Everywhere, like Lucy. Noah looked like Lucy in there with paint, smearing it everywhere. Every word means something. So we're going to dig a little deeper and discuss 5 things that I believe made it into Scripture just for you and just for me. Are we ready? Number 1, here we go. God prepares before He performs. Ooh, you want to write that down? Because I'm going to give you some meat this morning. Number 1, God prepares before He performs. We often ask these questions of God. I'm going to rattle off some questions, and I guarantee you've asked them. I know I have. God, why are you making me do this? Right? Why are you making me go through this? Why am I going through this? Sometimes, why am I going through this again? Right? Why am I still here? What's this? Oh, thank you so much. Now I can smack for a minute. That's true. Just a guy enjoying some gum.
If I'm trying to get prayed for, you can have the funkiest breath in the whole world. I don't just.
Well, you can't smell, but for those of us who've been on the other side of a funky prayer, we want you to brush your teeth.
I don't care if it's green with termite crawling. Just keep praying for me.
You know, George Washington teeth.
Yeah, like I don't care.
We prefer toothpaste users around here.
That's true. All right, so we often ask God the same questions over and over. Why are you making me do this? Why am I going through this? Why am I going through this yet again? Why am I still here? Anybody ever ask God questions kind of like that? Noah probably wondered something similar. After all, what was coming had never been experienced or seen by anyone who was living on the earth at that point. And so sometimes you're in a position where God's prepping you for something, but to everybody else, you look like you're losing your mind. You're just some crazy guy who's gone out in the wilderness and you're cutting down a specific type of tree and you're dragging it back and you're piecing it together. And if that wasn't enough, now you're smearing some kind of not good looking, stuff on the outside of it. And so at some point, Noah probably asked God, why am I doing this? Why are you making me do this? Don't you hear what people are saying about me? And we can all say, I don't care what they say about me. And that may be true once or twice. But when you become the object of someone's scrutiny, that doesn't feel good for anybody. And it doesn't matter how thick your skin is. When you become the butt of the joke or the village idiot, we don't like that. It doesn't feel good. And so what do? We turn our frustration towards the guy that we feel like is making us look like the fool, which in this case is the Lord. So Noah probably wondered something similar, probably worse, because we know Noah had a little attitude problem. So he probably wasn't as, reserved as what we would be approaching, the Lord. So Noah probably had some pretty intense conversations with the Father. Imagine spending decades coating every single seam with sticky pitch and trying not to be frustrated about being stuck in this season of preparation. In the heat, all day, all night. It's coming, Noah. You got to get that thing ready. It's coming. It's on its way. More pitch, more pitch, more pitch. No, you got to go back and do the outside. Noah, you better get them corners. You know, make sure you get them corners. Noah, I'm trying to save you. Listen to what I'm saying, son. You know, you ever been on the other side of one of those? They don't feel good. Listen to what I'm saying, son. Get that pitch and get back out there. Imagine being stuck in that season over and over and over. It begins to feel unnecessary. Emily.
Sorry.
You're fine.
So I read
I love you too. Is that what you said? I couldn't hear.
Noah, but I do love you too.
Oh, well, I love you too.
But I read a book about Noah, and it does give another take on how hard it was to stay faithful during that, because it was a lot of people were coming around by the end of it, like just making fun of him and throwing things at the ark. They tried to destroy the ark in the book, And while I think that it's a lot of creative liberty on what happened and what God used in that situation, because it was Army of God. If y'all want to read it, it was really good. But in that you see how he goes through that, and it gives you another view of how faithful he had to really be.
Yeah.
So,
Can't you see him out there and some guy, you missed the spot.
right?
Oh, just shut up. People have not changed. The heart of man is very much the same. So take this culture and throw them on a hill watching Noah put pitch on a boat for however many years it took. Go ahead.
It's a whole lot easier to be obedient in private.
Yes.
When the Lord asks you to do something like, go into the other room and pray for your child, or, pick up the Bible and go to this book or this chapter and this, doing it in private or among the people you feel safe with. It's a whole different beast to be obedient out in front of everybody who are going to think you're crazy. I mean, the least that they did was make fun of him.
Yeah.
The most was to question his sanity. And I'm sure his wife and sons and their wives didn't really have an easy time of it because of people visiting. And they're having to either stay with him or say, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. We're afraid too. This is not, this is something unlike, we can't explain it. But it's much easier to be obedient in private. But if we ever really want to fulfill what God's placed in our lives, we have to be obedient in public. There's going to be a time when you're going to step out and you might be by yourself. Or in the very least, you might be among some family members, but they might have questions.
Well,
There's going to be a time where you have to take your obedience public, or else what does anybody ever see?
most of the time that's where it's going anyways, right? Because God is a jealous God who wants the glory out of everything, right? And so we're to honor him and give him that glory. And what kind of glory does he get by prepping us in private and then pulling us through in private? It just doesn't happen like that. Billy and then JP. Billy.
When I think about Noah, I think about the frustration he must have felt dealing with all that. Well, just say, you know what, I'm over this. Go ahead and do whatever, we do that.
Oh, yeah.
In our own frustration. But then he was missed out on being saved and killed. Same thing applies to us spiritually.
Yeah.
Possibly physically. We're not careful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Noah is walking in a place that all of us have walked, are walking, and will continue to walk in. JP?
So it always ends up there, right? In frustration, and you're like, Lord, why me? Why would you bring me out here to leave me like I'm looking like an idiot? But where does it start? Oh, he picked me to start this
Yeah.
ministry. Oh, he picked me to be on the worship team. Oh, he picked me to lead the students ministry. Like, you're so excited. You're so full of zeal. You're ready to. I'm as Pastor Brad said, I'll charge hell with a water pistol. Like I'm ready to go right now. But then it always ends up with you're frustrated, you're broken, you're sad, you're angry, whatever. Pick an emotion. You go through the whole Rolodex of them at some point as you go through your spiritual walk, right? Because starting out, you're ready to do whatever God asks you to do, whenever God asks you to do it, and then at some point you're like, I'm like an idiot, man. I can't. Why would you have me do that? But we just have to. That's just
Yeah. And that's an excellent perspective, because how quickly we forget. Um, like JP said, you get called on to do something, or God's raising you up to do something, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. I'm so humbled. I'm so excited. And then when it requires something of us, it's like, this is for the birds, man. Somebody else can do this. I didn't know that this was going to be, all the time. I was happy to stand in, but I don't want to do it all the time. JR?
You gotta think, it wasn't actually something that he was, he asked, God asked you to go do something. It's not like you're walking up to someone in public or, going out and being a street preacher. This guy was building something. He couldn't hide it in his backyard. And, it wasn't, looking at it, how he built how he made the pitch, it's made from pine sap. So he had to not only take Overwood trees out, he had to take pine trees out. And where's he getting all this stuff? He drags it to the town, and having it delivered, cut up, and working. So it's not like he was just, building a small boat. He was building something that's, that was massive, and he couldn't just hide it. So, did he have anybody help him? If he didn't, then he was the only guy on the mountain.
Yeah.
With everybody that was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about Noah, and because not everybody's rude all the time. Some people are curious, but can't you just see, like, a guy going up to Noah? They're standing there, hands on their side. Noah, what do you got going on over here? What is? I'm hearing some things. What's going on? Well, you see, Fred? Fred, God told me to build a boat, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, okay. Okay, that's really good. What are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to take 2 of every animal on the earth, and I'm going to put it in this boat. And then God's going to destroy the earth, and we're getting out of here. And so Fred, as nice as Fred is, and we know him to be a gentleman. Everybody has a Fred. As nice as Fred is, no, it was good talking to you. And he walks off, and then he goes into town, and he talks to Martha, his wife, and Martha, Noah's done lost his mind. Nobody was taking him seriously because it's absurd, the thing that God is asking him to do. Build a boat. Okay, how big? Huge. Huge. Right? Think huge and then add 100 feet on each end of it. Huge, Noah. Build it. God, I built a boat. What do you want? Now cover it in sap. What? Why does it got to be so big, God? Noah, the day is coming where you're going to call forth 2 of every animal, male and female, and you're going to fill this boat with them. At some point, it's just too much. Noah wasn't a spiritual being. Noah was a man, a human, who had human thoughts and emotions and feelings. And sometimes the thing that God is asking us to do is just overwhelming and too big. But at no point during this process was Noah left without instruction. At no point throughout this process did Noah look up and go, God, I don't have what I need. And so what we got to do is outlandish as it is, we have to get in there. And it's just one instruction. And now the next instruction. And now the next instruction. It's a day-by-day listening and yielding to the voice of the Lord every single day, over and over and over and over again. And then you look up and you're sailing out of the preparation phase right into a promise. It's just one foot in front of the other. So for Noah, it probably began to feel unnecessary. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. There was no flood. There was no evidence of a flood. There was no other flood to prepare to or to compare this by. It was just Noah and his obedience. Billy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just noticed, like, for myself personally, and I'm sure others can recognize this pattern too, is when we're going through that process, it's something we most likely already prayed about and asked for, but the process doesn't go the way we think it should, and therefore the frustration sets in, and we just have to stick with it and keep going.
That's it. And it's always going to look different and feel different than what we have self-prepared for. It doesn't look like what what God has given us to do. If it was, we wouldn't have to depend so heavily upon His voice. And so we don't get it. We can't wrap our minds around it. We can't process it. It is a very tangible, tiring, exhausting process that we have to go through, but He's preparing us for that. And when we get there, it's not going to look like what we thought it was going to look like. Emily?
So I just want to know, honestly, how he felt when the first couple animals started coming up.
Boy, oh my gosh, this is
You
real.
know, because you would figure that the bigger animals would probably come first because they'd have to be on the lower levels.
Yeah. And what would be worse if the pitch wasn't all the way dry?
Right?
And now you got to go get these things, you know, the same duck over and over and over and over again, getting one wing to the side of the boat, you know. Yes.
On top of all of that, what he was doing in public, the New Testament said he was a preacher of righteousness.
Yes.
So he's preaching.
Yes.
So now he's not only preaching about righteousness, but he's got to keep a lot of that stuff that he's frustrated with kind of between him and God. He can't be out
Yeah,
there
he
building
can't
the
be
boat, losing it
Yeah.
daily,
Yeah.
throwing his hammer, having to gather stuff back up, quitting, going in, coming out the next morning just to start where he left off. He's got to maintain himself as he preaches to everybody who will listen. And this is at the end, but there was only 8 people on the boat. He wasn't able to win anyone outside of his family.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that. I'm sure he did not know that would be the case. So he was preaching, I'm sure, his guts out. Because if he believed the Lord enough to build that boat, he also believed him enough to know destruction was coming. And so can you imagine the heartache that he was carrying with every person that walked away or chose to mock him or, claimed he was insane or, got more bitter, bitter. But, I mean, it's just, you think about that, about having to be faithful to the ministry of the gospel along with this humongous task that's, like you said, you have nothing to compare it to. Nobody was coming along patting him on the back saying, man, I understand exactly what you're going through. He just had me build a 14-floor mansion just the other. I mean, nobody could even begin to touch what he was going through. But on top of that, he had to be a faithful minister of the gospel.
Yeah. And see, that has not changed either.
No.
You're being called to do something,
Yes.
and you're going to get frustrated. Lord knows you're going to get frustrated.
Yes.
But you can't be blowing it in front of everybody. Noah would have lost a lot of integrity and a lot of credibility if he lost his mind and, I don't know, say Lord, can you send me another male goat? That last one didn't make it. I got frustrated and anyways, yada, 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 send me another goat. This one didn't make it. You can be frustrated, but you got to hold it together because at some point you're coming out of this phase. We don't go through things like this in vain. We're going through things like this because at some point we are walking in His promises.
Yes.
And we want to get there as unscathed as possible. But you've got to go, He's God the Father for a reason.
Yes,
He's
is.
not God, this mysterious being, God, this guy who's got a lightning bolt ready to chuck at you as soon as you one toe over the line. He's a God who has a father's heart, and you're fine and perfectly okay to go to the Father and go, I am doing my best, but I am frustrated and I want to quit altogether. The Father wants that from His children. Somebody had Adam.
So, whenever I first got into church, the first thing I started doing was reading the Bible, trying to get an understanding of the concept of everything in the Bible. And you read all the stories in Genesis and all this Numbers, Deuteronomy, Mark, Luke, and John, and you get to read Revelations, and you get all this information that God's handed you in this Bible. And it really makes you think of how faithful Noah really was, because he's talking about Genesis, so he didn't have the Bible. He didn't have,
That's true.
like when we have hard times, first thing we do is grab our Bible and start reading and try to have a conversation with God through the Word of God. So for him, it was really walk by faith and not by sight, because he didn't have the Word to fall back on. He was living in the Word. So I think his faith
start the process of building an ark, and then the process of finishing it, and then the process of getting all these animals situated, throughout all that, dealing with scrutiny and everything that went along with it. So I could just imagine the faith that Noah had to have just to even start the process of the ark, let alone actually stick with it and finish it. Because they estimated it took between 50 and 75 years to finish the ark. From start to finish, 50 to 75 years. Dude, I have quit stuff in a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Like important stuff.
Right.
Like really important things. I'm like, that weekend, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. So I could just imagine how strong his faith really had to be to not have the word to lean on and still stay in faith regardless of what was going on outside of
Yes.
what he had going on with God. That's so powerful.
Let's take this and sit here for a minute.
Yes.
And here we go. How about this? Because Adam's right, there was no Bible. Noah was living in it, he was walking in it. And so, but Noah had faith, obviously, and he knew the importance of obedience. And so, no Bible, right? No disciples. Where did that come from? That came from constant communion with the Father.
Yes.
How many of us, here we go, how many of us get so busy during the week that we neglect communion with the Father? But we have a guy like Noah, right? Not just a fictional character. We're talking about a real person. There's historical evidence that every bit of this account is true.
Yes.
And so we have a guy with no Bible, no disciples, right? Jesus is not walking on the earth. This is the very beginning of creation. This is the front end of our Bible, our source for faith. How does a guy like Noah meet every obligation and responsibility and requirement that the Father has put on him and still find time to be in communion with the Father to the point of building a faith that it takes to do something like what Noah is being asked to do? And then we have a rough work week. I'm coming out of one, all right? I didn't want to do anything when I got home, but I'm just saying. We get busy with our kids and our jobs and our other obligations, and the first thing that we cut is communion and fellowship with the Father.
Yes, you're right.
Right? And it's Noah's faith that was the sole source of where it was coming from.
Yes.
Right? Shame on us. I've never built an ark. Right? Probably not going to. I don't want to. Because sometimes we say we're not going to, and then he's like, you're building a boat today. I don't want, Jay.
But we're all called to build our own ark, right? Like, we think it's this big grand thing that we have to be called to do. But we're not. We're all called to do the small things that we do every day in this church, that we do in the world. That's your ark. So, you are called to build one. It's just not as grandiose.
Yeah. Metaphorically, we should all have, men mostly, but that's not everyone's situation. We should all have a faith rooted in what Noah had, and our priority should be a metaphorical ark where whatever is coming as far as judgment is concerned, me and mine, we're in the promises of
Yes.
God. So
Yes.
yeah, we are called to build an ark. I just don't want to go out and physically build one. Mine won't float.
So, Noah was like, what, 200 years old, 300, I don't know. He was like, they lived hundreds of years, right?
He was 900 years old when he died.
Yeah, he was
So, okay, so he's probably, what, 300, 400, 500 years old when he starts building this ark, or at completion of the ark, or if it was 50 to 75 years. He's got some time on earth, right? And so, he's had the opportunity to do smaller things for the Lord, and the Lord to provide for him or show him favor in these situations. So the small acts of what compared to an ark, obviously, the small acts of what the Lord would show favor for, or what Noah has built his faith up over by doing, has led him to, all right, well, the Lord's going to take care of this. I just got to put, wake up every morning, grab my hammer and nails, and go to work, right? That's what we all do. Wake up every morning, grab our hammer and nails, and go to work, right? We're not physically building an ark, but we're trying to maintain a relationship with the Lord, right? That's how we do it. I think that with him preaching every day, if you spread the gospel every day, if you have an opportunity to spread the gospel to anyone, somebody at your job, the grocery store, at the gas station, whatever it may be, if you have an opportunity to do that, doesn't that build your faith up, being able to say, hey, look what the Lord's done for me by giving your testimony? And Noah's had hundreds of years to gather his testimony up to the point where he starts building the ark, or even in the process of building the ark, right? So he's had plenty of opportunity to build his testimony. So like I think him being able to preach or spread the gospel or at least share his testimony at any point, like that's a lot. That goes a long way to maintain your faith, doesn't it? Don't you think?
I would think so.
So,
According to Scripture, yes.
And so, if you have the opportunity to do that every day, that should go a long way to maintaining your faith. And I think that's one of the things that helped Noah stay the course was the opportunity to share his faith every day and maintain his faith and build his faith. I mean, what did you say? I mean, you had 50 years worth of every day grabbing his pouch of nails and his hammer and spreading the gospel. Like that goes a long way. If you did the same thing every day, if you get up with your tools that the Lord has provided you with and share the gospel every day, I think it goes a long way to maintain your faith.
It does. Whatever ill Noah felt towards the Lord, you can guarantee was gone. The second God closed that door and that boat lifted up and took off. Because now you're walking in the promise and the process suddenly makes sense.
Well, I was thinking too, most theologians say that Methuselah helped him. Oh, that's what you about to say?
No, I was gonna say something about him too.
Oh, yeah, and Methuselah lived to be older than anybody.
Yeah.
So when I picture that, I think about them out there fixing on this boat. And it's probably him and Methuselah. And all these people walking by talking about them. And Noah and Methuselah just agree together, you know, we're just going to ignore these clowns. And we're just going to stay busy. We're going to praise the Lord. We're going to do our thing, you know. And I think about that, about even if he was by himself, most people, and this is the really what we need to think about is that, and you might be going here, if somebody makes a Facebook post about us in a negative comment, we're ready to commit suicide. We're ready to just throw in, oh my life is over with, over a comment. And these guys had people day in and day out ridiculing them, because you know they did, talking about them. You guys are idiots and fools. You know how people are. You were talking about this a minute ago. And we just think somebody's talking about us when they're really not, and we're ready to fall apart. You know, and I think about that. That's why God don't give a lot of us those big things that will be like world moving, because we can't handle just a little. We're so thin-skinned, we can't handle just a little bit of ridicule. It's like we have to have everybody else to lift us up. Well, we don't need everybody else. Who are they anyway? You know, I mean, think about that. Who are these people? And I see y'all. You'll have a crisis and you'll throw it on Facebook and you'll get 10,000 responses and they're all different. Then you got to sit here and decipher what's right. That's foolish. Don't do that. Don't tell the world your business. Go to God and ask God about it. God, I mean, you said a minute ago, they didn't even have a Bible. He had to have a communion with God that God told him daily what to do. He had to get up and say, okay, God, what today? What do you want me to do? Because he didn't know how to do all that. But that's what I'm saying is that we have to forget about everybody else. I'm not trying to tell you cut off people in your world, but stop letting sinners determine how we're going to live and how we're going to follow God. If a sinner can remove us from the vision of God, then we got some issues anyway.
Amen.
That's a valid point. One more thing, and I'm going to be quiet. There's some things that we've been praying for years. And I feel like we're right there at the door of it. Well, as I think about it, I think, okay, and I actually had this conversation with Cheryl about it, that if God would have done this a year ago, I wouldn't have known what to do with it. I was not prepped. I was not ready. I was not prepared. And you said that a minute ago. You said about preparation. Preparation is what we have to have. If God had answered this prayer a year ago, I wouldn't be ready for it. I wasn't prepared for it. Now, a year or two later, I feel like I'm beginning to see the preparation that God has been doing, prepping us for that moment. How bad would it be to build a boat and then the floods come and you didn't put the pitch on and the thing sinks? You got to have preparation. I'm probably getting all over what you're
No.
saying. I'm sorry if I am.
No.
But you know what? We shouldn't agonize over the preparation. There's going to be a harvest that comes. There's going to be, eventually the rain's coming and the boat's going to hold.
Yes.
And that's what God's getting us ready for, is to float. Well, that's good. That's a sermon.
That is.
It's an exhausting process.
It is.
You don't understand it when you're going through it. But the second you see the promise revealed, you go, ah,
That's it.
that's why I did
Me and
that.
Jason were talking earlier about, and y'all know he's having surgery Wednesday. I know he don't mind me saying, we're going to pray for him. Thursday, I'm sorry, Thursday. But I'm Wednesday, he's Thursday.
Oh, wow.
And we were talking about, I said, when you get on the other side of it, it's like all that other stuff didn't even happen. When I got on the other side of chemotherapy was the worst experience of my life. I'm not exaggerating. But on the other side of it, I don't forget all that, man. I'm on this side now. And that's how I bet how he looked at it. God, my hands were killing me, and I felt like I was getting arthritis from driving nails and blisters and everything else. But now I'm out here in a yacht cruising on the ocean while everybody else is drowning. You know, when you get to the favor part of it, it was worth everything you had to go through.
Yes.
That's another good sermon right there.
You better write it down.
I'm gonna write it down. Somebody write that down.
Emily,
So Methuselah also was
You're next, baby.
Death. His death was what brought the flood. Like after he was gone is when the flood started, and his name actually meant that in Hebrew, like he will bring the flood.
Hmm.
So
That's
his
powerful.
death, yeah, his death actually brought in the flood.
Yeah.
It
When he
meant that.
finished his job.
And yeah, he did. And he was the grandfather of Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the grandfather of Noah. So I mean, God knew and prepared every little detail,
Oh,
even
yeah.
down to his name.
Yeah.
And Noah would have known that from very young. I believe that. I mean, they always knew what their names meant.
Yeah. That was important to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very important to them.
That's
So I
powerful.
mean, just think of how he didn't know that God was going to use him like that, but he knew his grandpa was going to bring it in. So he had to know that, something was going to happen with his family at least.
all these nuggets coming out today. Look at you guys.
Good.
Adam,
So, a minute ago, somebody said something about, Jay said, metaphorically, we build our own arcs in our lives and stuff. And whenever you think about Noah building an ark, or you read the story, most of the time people just focus on this massive boat that he built. And you don't think about, he didn't have a hardware store. So he had to make all those nails. He didn't have a processing plant to process all that tar. He didn't have a wood processing plant to process all the wood that went into making that boat. All these small things that he had to do just to add up to him being able to start the process of building that boat. I think a lot of tailgate testimonies, whenever they posted on social media, all that people saw was that we went out to this parking lot, we baptized some people in the parking lot. They didn't see somebody bring their trailer up here. They didn't see the guys toting the baptismal out to the trailer. They didn't see the guys filling it up with water. They didn't see us in here on Monday nights rehearsing and, learning how to be stretched and, the process of everything that went into just us going to a parking lot baptizing some people. So I think every day in our lives, we metaphorically build our own arcs and stuff. People are never going to see the small things you go through to get to you building this huge boat. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the way the world works now, where we want people to see everything from start to finish.
Yes.
And a lot of times we step away from things because we're like, well, nobody's even going to see that I'm doing all this. So a lot of times we screw ourselves out of blessings because we don't want to make the nails. We don't want to have to make our own tar. We don't want to have to go
Yeah.
find our own wood, the perfect tree to make this board as long as I need it. So a lot of times I think we step away from things because we know how hard it's going to be. And I think that Noah, I'm pretty sure whenever God was talking to him and he was telling him, hey, I need this boat to be this big, I'm pretty sure there was a part of him that's like, God, do you understand what I'm going to have to go through to just get the supplies for you to have this boat? And I mean, if he would have stepped away and was like, not doing that, know, it's not like I've got thousands of years on this earth. If he would have been like, I don't have the time for it, or I had a rough week at work, you know, or my kids are acting up. I don't have time to talk to God right now. I've got to go deal with this and this and this. If he would have done that, not only would we have never heard about Noah, we would have never lived out anything. Like, it would have stopped with him. The world literally would have ceased to exist with Noah because of his faith. The world is full of people.
Yeah. Yeah. You wonder how much God actually told Noah at once
That's true.
to prevent Noah from wheeling and dealing. I would have said, whole picture, Matt, you're going to build this ark, this is what's going to happen. I would have said, Lord, leave out the roaches and the mosquitoes and the ticks and the chiggers, and we can do it with an ark 2/3 this size. He doesn't want to hear that, you know. You had something?
Just a quick comment off of what, something Adam said, and I just want to reiterate that sometimes people are not gonna do, those kinds of things, they're not gonna follow through with what God's called them to do unless people can see their little sacrifices along the way, because they're too built on appreciation.
That's a vanity
promotion,
issue, yeah.
Elevation, you know, see how hard I'm working for God, see how much sleep I've lost, see how hard this was for me, look at my blisters, I have nobody, it's just me, even Methuselah slept in this morning, I'm all by unless people can see that, and then pat you on the back, and say, we really appreciate that, we don't know where we'd be without you, they don't wanna do it, because they're looking for that, that's what they want, and if they can go in that and get it, that's fine, but the moment that kind of, you know, affirmation, or, you know, people say, well, you gotta appreciate it, well, you do, but your ultimate appreciation comes from the Father when he says, well done. That's what we should be pushing in for. And because people don't see every little tear you shed, every little nail you drive, every little splinter you're digging out in the midnight hour, doesn't mean that you don't need to push full press into what God has called you to do. Because ultimately it's between you and him, not you and the audience you're building. People don't want to do without an audience. They have to have somebody to see it, to validate them. Once I'm validated, I can move on. Well, if you're waiting on that, you're just going to be waiting. So God will call somebody else to build the boat.
There's a word for that the kids have now. What's that word? What was it, like humble brag, or something like that? Yeah, it's where you brag on yourself, but you wrap it up in like a humility thing, you know, like, oh, I'm just so tired, but that's okay. I don't mind sitting up all night and feeding the homeless.
I have to laugh when the statement starts off with, I'm a humble person, because I'm thinking, well, if you're really humble, you ain't got to say it.
Yeah,
Let
just
people
do it
see
and just do it and be
Humility is what
quiet.
people see. They don't have to hear it, they see it.
But isn't it like the Lord can give you just enough to like keep you motivated? Like he'll let you see a little bit of the picture, because like, don't you think that like Noah can see a little bit each day? Is like, all right, I'm making progress, right?
Yeah.
Like I got the bow done, or if that's even what it's called, or the back of the boat, or the side of the boat, or whatever. I got the place, the wheelhouse. I got that built. Like something, you know, like something every day. Or I've gathered enough materials that I can do whatever the bottom of the boat's called. I'm not a boat guy, obviously. I think
The
it's
bottom
the
bottom end.
boat's called, right?
Oh,
There you go. So you're like, I've gathered enough so I can do that part, right? Or at least some of it. Like I think because like in the line of work I'm in, I'm dealing with problems all day long. So like
Yeah.
it's always, can I diagnose this problem or that problem or whatever? And like I get nasty and I get hot and I get tired and I get sweaty and I get stinky and I get frustrated and all those things. But at the end of the day, when I've solved it, it's like, you know, it was worth it. Not really, because it's hot and tired.
There's a relief that comes,
Yeah,
you know.
but yeah. So the Lord gives you just enough. What we consider just enough, really it's a lot, but it's just enough to get you to bite again, to do it again. Hey, I want you to do this ministry. God, I'm gonna kill them all. But then,
Yeah.
like, someone gets saved, and you're like, it's totally worth it. I'll do it again.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Amen.
and when it's like the women with the childbirth, like this is so I'd never do it again. I'm squeezing out a watermelon out of my butthole. Like, you
Oh,
know what
God.
I'm saying?
That's not where they come from, JP.
Have you seen the shape of some of these hands? Anyway,
Next week we're going to do biology.
but anyway,
This is important.
But I would do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The pain of
no man's ever gonna be like, I'll do that again. Nope, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, so like,
No, it ain't.
I'm-
The pain ain't worth
This Sunday school lesson went off the rails so fast. Go to someone else, please.
Okay. Jay, you had something, sir?
Noah was great, right? But like, he wasn't a perfect person.
No.
So a lot of times when you're hearing from the Lord, you're like, oh, God's not talking to me because I'm not perfect. I'm not right. Noah was a drunkard. Like, he still did all those great things, but he was a drunk. So like, you're never gonna be in a perfect situation or a perfect storm to listen to God and do what God's telling you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You don't have to be a perfect person.
You don't have to be.
In the Bible, the only perfect person that was called upon was Jesus.
Yeah.
Everyone else was either a drunk, adulterer, a murderer, psychotic.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the Bible that had tons of problems. And like nowadays, like for instance, nowadays if they called upon David to do something miraculous, they'd be like, there'd be a million posts on Facebook. Well, I remember when this guy was sleeping with his buddy's wife and
Then had him
this,
killed.
this.
Yeah.
And like had him killed.
Yeah.
Like, he sent him off to be shot in the face at the truck wash. And you're like, there's no way God called this man
Yeah.
to be a man
I don't
of
know.
God. And that's the way our world is now. It's hard for somebody to do something miraculous because immediately somebody jumps on Facebook and they're like, y'all remember when this dude was in prison? Or y'all
Yeah.
remember when this guy was hanging out with drug addicts all the time? Like, I'm not supposed to get behind nothing he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're not a true Christian. You don't have faith because if you had faith, you would see God's already let that go. That's not him no more. He has grown. And the only reason I get so upset about this is because I deal with it every day. So many people scrutinize me and look at me like they know who I am. And I get it. You knew who I was.
Yep.
I'm not me who I was yesterday. And it makes me so mad because our world is full of people that are so quick to point the finger and they're like, oh, well, he used to do this and he used to do this. Well, yeah, but you didn't see me at church this past weekend helping out set up this and this and this. And you, as a man of faith, you can't be like that. You can't, well, you didn't see me do this.
Yeah.
If that person was important enough to show up and see it, they wouldn't even be pointing fingers at you anyway.
What you do in those situations is you do what Noah did, which is you just keep on going.
That's right.
You keep on going.
That's it.
People keep on talking. You keep on going. And then the flood comes. You are selling off in the promises of God. Yourself and all of your spectators go, oh, now it makes sense. You know, you just keep going. We're going to wrap up number 1 very quickly. And then we will hit number 2 next week. All right? So a lot of this felt unnecessary to Noah because what was coming had never been experienced before. Yet every brushstroke of pitch was preparing Noah for something that he couldn't even yet imagine. We have the benefit of being able to close our eyes and sometimes see what's coming. Noah didn't even have this. He had nothing to compare it by. Sometimes God has you reading your Bible, learning patience, forgiving people, serving faithfully, praying consistently, and there comes a time where a lot of it just seems unnecessary. I'm tired of the process. I want to start to walk in something. God, I'm doing what you ask, but I need a change of scenery. Everything is the same. What are we still doing here? And then the storm of your life comes, just like it always will, and then suddenly you realize God wasn't wasting your time. He didn't give you busy work. His perfect plan was coming together. He was sealing your life from the inside out to protect you from what you were about to have to walk in. Sometimes it feels as if we're stuck in prep mode, but we have to remember that it is God that begins the work. It is God that is faithful to finish the work. All right? Number 2, we will start next week with what looks like destruction is actually preservation. Ooh! All right? So make sure you're back because we got 4 more of these bad boys to do.
I just want to say this as like a end-all sentence, but you know, when you look at that scripture, it talks about how God saw nothing but horrific wickedness and evilness, and He said, "That's it. I'm taking y'all out, and I'm done. Everybody else is gone." It speaks to me just how merciful God really is, because I think, could those days have really been worse than the days we're in? Because the days we're in are pretty sick, twisted, wicked, you know, and the more you read and the more you hear and the more that gets revealed, the worse it is. And so we have God's mercy upon us. And I know at some point, word says he's gonna do it, and the way he said he would do it, he's gonna do it. But for right now, we have today. And so we need to be not just faithful like Noah in building that boat, we need to be faithful preachers of righteousness. Because there is coming a time when we won't have anything more to say, and they won't have another opportunity.
Yep. We may not be building a boat. You can put your money on judgment is coming.
Yes, it is.
And so if you're in the preparation phase and feel like you're burned out on the preparation phase, you got to remind yourself this is God's process before his hand of judgment ever strikes the earth.
It.
So, all right, Sunday school offering to Sister Deborah.